Before we can talk about algorithms or sorting algorithms, which is going to be necessary information for you to complete Chapter 8's assignment, we need to talk a little bit about just being able to swap elements in an array. And before we do that, probably the easiest way to describe that is to start out with a couple of buckets. All right, let's say we have two buckets. We'll just put ourselves a little bucket here, or a box, or whatever you want to call that thing. Okay, there's our other box. Let's say that this has that in there, and this one has one of these in there. All right, what I decided is that I don't really want the triangle to be in this box, and I don't want the dot, or whatever you want to call this, to be in this box. I would rather them to be switched around, so we'll just maybe call that box A. Call this box B. Okay, so how are we going to accomplish that? Because one of the other things I didn't tell you about is the fact that this box is only capable of holding one thing at a time, and this box here is also only capable of holding one thing at a time, and both boxes are full. So some of you guys are saying, well, Dave, just take it out of the box and put it somewhere else. Well, if we take it out into the box, it goes into the atmosphere and it goes away. So the solution is to create another box, right? We take this and we move it into here. We take this, we move it into here, and then we take this and we move it into here. Okay, now the code to accomplish that is pretty straightforward. You basically save whatever's in box B somewhere, okay, and then you take whatever's in box A and you overwrite whatever is in box B, and then you take whatever is in the somewhere and you store it over here. So I could have, say, like A is equal to 4, okay, and I could say B is equal to 5. I want A and B to be swapped. So the way that I do that is I just create another box I'll just call Z, okay, put a little Z there, and I'm going to make that equal to A, or I'm sorry, B. We'll just go B because it'll be easier for you guys. So now I don't care about B because I've saved it, right? Z has the number 5 in it. So once I've done that, all I have to do is set B then equal to whatever is in an A, right? So now the 4 that's right here goes into B, right? So then I finally get A set back to what it needs to be. So I say A is equal to Z, whatever is in Z. All right, so that's the whole swapping arrangement. So now let's take a look at a piece of Python code and see if this makes sense to you. Okay, so now that we've discussed a little bit about how the swapping business actually occurs, let's make it happen with an actual array. I could do it with variables, but we kind of already did it with variables with that chalkboard, so let's do it with an array. I've created an array here called myArray, and I have the elements in position 0 I have a 1, in position 1 I have a 2, and in position 2 I have a 3. I set an index that I'm going to use for my swapping operation, and the index X is going to be 0, okay, and Y is going to be equal to 1. Fact is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to not even do it quite that way. What I'm going to do is every place I have a Y, I will make it X plus 1. What do you think of that plan? Does that make sense to you guys? So now I'm grabbing a hold of whatever is in X plus 1, which is the next position over, right? So what exactly we're doing, we're taking whatever's in position 0 right there, and we're storing it into a temporary variable, temporary holder, our temporary box. And then we're going to take whatever is in position 2 and or 1, we're going to store it in position 0. And then we're going to take whatever is in position, or whatever is in temporary, and put it in position 2. So let's run this, okay, if I can figure out how to run. And it comes back with a nice little output for us, handy dandy output. And it, if I can move this down a little bit, there we go. You see this was the original array because I told it to print it, and now we see that 2 and 1 are swapped. And what's more, if I wanted to, all I have to do is just change X like so and run it. And now you see that 3 and 2 are swapped just by simply by changing the index. Okay, well, since I'm going to go through the trouble of doing this kind of a swap thing, in order to save confusion for myself with respect to the job that I'm doing, I'm going to actually create a function that will do this. Okay, and that function looks like this. So as you can see, what I did was I'm expecting in my function, I'm expecting to pass in the array whose name I just called in uppercase A, and I'm going to pass in one index I and then the other index Y. And of course I could just jump ship on this and make this be just simply X and use X plus 1 in here. But what if I want to swap elements that are in different places in the array, such as maybe midway, down the first half of the array, and then midway up the first half of the upper portion of the second half of the array, and I want to swap those two guys. Well, that ends up being really, really convenient if I have written a function in this format. Okay, so swap takes an array. It takes whatever index you want to use, whatever other index that you want to use, and it's going to just simply swap those two cells. X could be a 3 and Y could be a 10 for all we know. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I've set X is equal to a 1. I've already defined my array, and now all I have to do is right here, as I say swap, SWAP, open parenthesis, my array, like so, comma, X is what I want to use, comma, and this time I'll just go X plus 1 because that's what I really want. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that and see what it does. Hopefully it won't crash. And there it is. It gave me the exact same result. Some of you guys are probably wondering, why bother with a swap routine? Why bother defining a function that only has actually 3 lines of code? Well, really, the biggest reason that I do this is it helps me to know exactly what it is that I am doing. I've up above in the code somewhere before I called this line of code, I determined for some reason that I need to swap out the contents of 2 array elements. And in this case, they happen to be adjacent to one another. Okay, so the swap routine. We went ahead and we wrote that. So now the next thing that I want to move into is the only sorting algorithm that we're going to discuss, and that's going to be the bubble sort.